Now Ayrshire Radio Podcast presents Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Well, it's time for the local legend of the week, and I am delighted to welcome one of the most recognisable faces in Scottish agriculture, from sheep farming in Ayrshire to building one of the UK's biggest farming YouTube channels. He's brought rural life to millions of viewers across the world through honesty, humour and a camera mounted somewhere in the farm. I'm delighted to welcome the creator of The Sheep Game, farmer, shearer, livestock scanner, presenter and podcaster, Cammy Wilson.
Great to be here. I'm blushing on the other side of the table here.
You wrote that for me.
Sounds like something my mum would have said.
So before we get into farming and YouTube, it's a Sunday after all, so the important question: are you a full Scottish breakfast or a bacon roll man?
If I had to choose between one of them, I'd probably go with the bacon roll.
Alright, okay.
Appetite aspara.
Aye, and tea or coffee?
Coffee.
And what is your go-to snack during lambing season when you've barely got 5 minutes to yourself?
Weirdly, do you know what I love? I love sneaking away and going to the espresso cart in Kilmarnock and getting that. They do these wee protein overnight oats. See that with a flat white? Just keeps you going.
That's you sorted.
I had it in the way here.
Yeah, we've got some gets you set up for the day, from farming to coming into an interview here in Now Ayrshire Radio.
You're listening to Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Now Ayrshire Radio.
I am chatting with Cammy Wilson from The Sheep Game. So Cammy, let's go right back to the beginning. You grew up around sheep farming here in Ayrshire. What's your earliest memories of farm life?
Earliest memories of farm life, I have this vivid memory of banging at the door, desperate to get out because my dad was going to feed sheep in the old tractor we had, and I just had to go with him every day, and eventually being allowed out and running up the hill and getting in the tractor and going with him to feed sheep. I just have this memory, this old Zeta tractor that we used to feed sheep with. That's my sort of first memories.
So I was going to say there, so what's it like growing up with a father who worked as a shepherd? I think that's probably giving you a good start in that.
Aye, it's old school. Like, you know, it was. I remember at school whenever anyone was talking about what their parents did, whenever you said your father was a shepherd, it always caught the attention, because it's almost like one of these things you hear about it in the Bible but you don't hear much else about it.
You say that, do you know the first time that I'd heard anyone say shepherd was actually Michael Smith. So Michael, who does the breakfast show with Ali, he lives in a farm, his wife's a farmer, and they've got a shepherd.
Yep.
And I remember him saying, we were at his house, we were DJing in Dumfries, and then went back to his house and stayed over, and he was like, the shepherd will be in, it's 5 a.m. I was like, shepherd?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It's a noble occupation. It's as pure as they come.
Absolutely. Now, because before farming you were full-time, you spent around 12 years as a police officer in Glasgow. How did you end up down that route?
So it comes back a wee bit to the shepherd thing. So as much as I love farming, when your father's a shepherd, he doesn't own the farm, he's an employee of the farmer. So it's not like I have a farm to take on and run. Essentially he's just employed. And back in those days, growing up in the 90s, there was no money in being a shepherd. It was a hard way of life. You know, you're working massive hours a week, very little holidays, sewing the body. So he was always, go and get a job, nice pension, cushy number. I looked at university. It was going to cost an absolute fortune to go and do university, etc. And at that time, it was not long after SNP had come in and their big 1,000 police officers manifesto, and the adverts were everywhere. I'd never in my life, I spent my whole youth running away for the police at the weekends. Do you know what I mean? We used to cut about, Annan Hill Golf Course and all that. But I saw this adverts everywhere, join the police, and I thought, might try that.
How did you find it?
Great. Like, I think I was the last sort of glory days of being a police officer, where there was enough of us, especially at that time, there was enough of us to maybe tackle local issues and be actually out on the beat. And I spent like a year and a half going about on a mountain bike in the city centre of Glasgow, like just tackling whatever you wanted to tackle, and dealing with problems, drug users, etc. It was good. Now I think it's just so short-staffed and so under pressure. It'd be a really difficult place to be. Yeah,
and I speak to a lot of police officers. That is challenging, especially even the world that you're in just now, trying to do your job when you've got this thing in your hand, the phones and the WhatsApps and also the pictures and everything. The amount of videos you see in likes of TikTok for a simple stop and search and a traffic stop, and all of a sudden they're becoming TikTok famous.
Yeah, this is people shoving cameras in your face. Yeah, that was definitely becoming a big thing, more so towards the end of when I was there. But yeah, it was always mad, especially Glasgow. I was Glasgow city centre, so for the first 8 years we were in uniform. You're covering the garage and all these nightclubs in the city centre. Everybody's drunk, everybody's the big man. As soon as you get an interaction with someone, there's 10, 20, 30 folk round about with their phones out watching from across the street, so you always had to keep yourself right.
And that's now what you absolutely love, the phone out, and you've built a YouTube channel from it. Just think, if you can't knock it, join it. You've got to get involved.
Well, that's it, exactly. I can't slight it too much, because that's certainly we make our income from now.
So see, when you were in the police, obviously completely different to what you're doing just now. Did you ever imagine the early days of policing, as you went in, you'd make a return to agriculture?
No, I must admit, I never thought I would come back to the agriculture thing, as I say, just because that it's very difficult to get into. I had always said from the very start I was only going to do 10 years because they sort of changed the whole pension thing, and it was going to be that I'd need to work 42 years, I'd need to do till I was 60, which by the time I'm 60 that'll be a great time to retire, I'm sure. But at that time I thought, I don't fancy 42 years doing this gig, so I thought I'll do 10 years and I'll go and do something else. What I was going to do I wasn't sure. I lived very frugally, like I wasn't into big fancy cars and that, and I just started putting money into properties. So that's before the farming thing, and Kilmarnock, Ayrshire, that kind of 2012 time on was a great time to be buying properties because there was such a crash, and you could pick up 2-bed semis in Belfield for 45-50 grand. So we started doing that and renting them out. This is back again when it was actually decent to rent them out, and I was going that route. And then obviously things changed and I ended up coming back into farming. So
what got you back into farming then and allowed you to kind of rebuild your time in farming life?
I mean, there is an absolute catalyst for it. Essentially, when I was 25, I get a sudden news. My dad took us in and says, listen, I've got cancer, I've got 8 weeks to live. This whole thing. 25, you're a man at 25, but you're not really a man at 25, if you know what I mean. It's like you think you're a man, but then you find out your dad's going to die, and then you're
very quickly. That's
and that whole thing. So it was literally just the crisis of how am I to cope. I was like, I need to work with sheep. So I got a few sheep of my own, and then a few more, and a few more. The next thing, I'm selling a house in Belfield to buy more sheep, and it went from
how many sheep did you start with?
4 in my mum's garden.
And then just grew it from your mum's garden.
Thankfully, the farmer that my dad worked for was very kind to us and says, could I take Mum had about a half-acre garden?
So it wasn't just like a wee garden.
It was a farmhouse. It was a farmhouse with a big garden. So I put 4 in it, and it went for there.
So sheep in the business and sheep is something that, unless you're involved in the farming community, you would know. What's the price of sheep?
Sheep are at record prices just now.
Right.
Unbelievable. And it's various factors. There's a global shortage of sheep. And one big thing with sheep is they're incredibly hard work. Really difficult. If you know anything about farming, there's always a thing that sheep, they just want to die. You'll just go out to the field and them lying dead for no reason. Today they get so many ailments and other issues. Whenever you work with them, it's so incredibly physical. Whether you're shearing them or dosing them, everything's hard work.
They're from what I'd heard, and I've got kind of family friends over in Isle Butte, and they had said to me, they always remember when I was younger, they were aggressive. They're quite hard to deal with.
I don't know, but they certainly take the knees off you if you weren't watching. Like, if they're running by you, they quite easily take your knee out. They're sore in the body. Whereas with cattle, to work with cattle, you need to have big equipment and proper setup.
This is really just you and the sheep.
With the sheep, quite often it's just physical work, and that's how a lot of people don't want to do it now. So the prices are going up. So
so it's supply and demand.
Exactly.
What kept you motivated during the kind of early years when you had your 4 sheep and you were building it up from there?
I've always had quite a drive. Like, even when I was in the police, I was going away and contract lambing for other people, and then I started sheep shearing while I was in the police. So I was doing that. I would use all my holiday time in the police to either go lambing or shear sheep in the summer. So like, always just been flat out of working, and the sheep, having my own sheep just meant I was never short of a job to do. I just enjoyed being flat out.
What point did you realise that you could go, do you know what, whilst maybe in the police, whilst doing that, I can actually turn this into a business and just go for it?
The big thing was definitely when we started the YouTube channel. We started that back in 2019, and this was before TikTok and all that. It was a real slow burner. The first 14 months you hardly get any views, you're just grinding away, and then it started to get a wee bit of traction, and then all of a sudden it was bringing in an income that wasn't quite my police wage, but it was enough to live. It would cover the bills. Yeah, and you knew you could grow on it, because fundamentally when you're in the police, you're in a band, and there'll be increments annually or whatever, but unless you go into promoted posts and really probably focus, and the higher, people might not realise it as much as when you're a police officer, sergeant, inspector, the higher ranks you go, it becomes your life as well. So there wouldn't have been time to have the bit and the sheep in the side, so to speak, would there? No, absolutely not. And the opportunity just came to do it, and I knew I could go and shear more sheep as well. So I knew I'd be okay. It would free up more time to shear sheep, which was my big passion at the time.
There we go. Right, we're going to talk about YouTube and how the sheep game exploded in popularity.
Tune in live every Sunday from 10 a.m. for Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Only on Now Ayrshire Radio.
Now Ayrshire.
We are still with Cammy Wilson of the Sheep Game. Now, Cammy, a lot of people know you because of YouTube, but not everyone knows how it actually started. So your first shared videos was on Snapchat before moving on to YouTube in February of 2019. Done my research here.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've caught me out there.
What convinced you to upload the very first video?
So yeah, as you said, Snapchat's a great thing. Like, not for the reasons many might think, but it's fantastic for showing all your problems. So, you know, Facebook and Instagram would put this fake life on there of like, oh, look at the holidays and look how perfect my kids are and X, Y and Z. Whereas Snapchat, especially amongst my mates in the farming world, you put all the disasters on that you don't want your not close friends to see. So it's a great thing when you're farming, you're working by yourself and you're quite isolated. Whenever you're having a bad day, see when somebody sends you a Snapchat that their best bulls dropped dead in the field, I mean, you feel bad for them, but it makes you feel better.
But do you know, and that's something that a lot of people might not know about farming. It's a very lonely job in the big world. Like, you're out and about constantly, you're out in fresh air, but you're largely yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why if anyone a bit of DJ stuff and whatnot, I'm sure if you've seen the Young Farmers 10 to 8 show, that's a day. See when they come together for a beer, it's wild, like, because there is so much time spent by yourself. Did you ever imagine that millions of people would end up watching basically your everyday life in the farm? No, I could never imagine the way it's gone. It's absolutely incredible. Like, I remember when I first started, you spend 6 or 7 hours editing a video and you'd end up with 3 views, and 2 of them would be you, the other one would be my mum. Do you not always think as well, though, that this is something that I've seen from when we do things in the radio as well, you're looking at content, you're looking at ideas. Sometimes the stuff that you put up that you think is going to work and it doesn't, and then the stuff that you don't think is going to work blows up. Yeah, I find the more you mess about, try to overproduce it, the less likely it's going to do well. Keep it raw, absolutely. That actually links back to time. See, during lockdown, again, I don't know how to have a day off, so lockdown happened and I was like, I don't know what to do here, and I did a thing called Lockdown Live where I basically DJ'd in my garden. See, when I did it just on my mobile phone with like no video quality whatsoever, it was getting like hundreds of thousands of views. See, when I started getting a camera in and producing it properly, it died down. There's something absolutely in that, and it actually was a lot. You could hear it better, look better, proper production didn't do as well. I think part of it is now we're so used to being sold something or something being pushed on us that when we actually see something that's just a low quality video, it does well. I saw one pop up the other day, actually. Do you remember Kanye West's Super Bowl advert? Yes. He spent the $7 million on the advert and then just filmed the advert on his phone saying go to Yeezy and buy my trainers, and it actually blew up and was one of the most successful adverts ever, and it's absolute genius. It's very, very true. People like the raw, they like the behind. I mean, you look at it now, everybody wants to see behind the scenes, and that seems to be what actually goes on under the curtain. You want to see it, and that's probably how your stuff's done well, because unless you're involved in the community, you don't necessarily know what goes on in farming. Now, you show the good days, but you also show the mistakes, the setbacks and the difficult moments. Why is authenticity so important to you? I just think, for me, when you make a mistake, it takes such a weight off you if you just own up to it. You know, if you just deal with it head on there and then, rather than sit and swither on it and you know, like a prime example, yesterday I smashed the front off my pickup, and it's not my pickup, I've got a loan of it from somebody, so I just straight away phoned them, told them what I'd done, and then made a video about it, having a laugh. And it's like, listen, you can sit and swither and say, oh, how am I going to hide this or cover it up? Just front up. Things happen. We all make mistakes. Absolutely. What do you think people enjoy about watching sheep farming online? I mean, I'd like to think the authenticity of it is a big factor. We have a big family side to it as well. You know, my partner Lizzie's a big part of the farm. She's a farmer as well, and we have 3 young kids. They're 4, 3 and 2 who are very much out with us all the time. On 4-year-old will be at work he's in the tractor there. He's at topping grass and in the tractor. I hopefully have it done time I get back. But that is the farming way. You know, they start young, and we're hopefully trying to get them brainwashed into being farmers. And you mentioned as well earlier on about the supply and demand. Right now, people that might be in school or whatever, if they've not been brought up in the farming community,
it might feel like that unless you're brought up a farmer, you're an outsider and you can't be a farmer. What would you say to people that have maybe got a bit of an interest in farming that are listening this morning and maybe don't know what to do but think, do you know what, I want to work outside, I want to do those things, but what would you say to them in terms of getting involved?
Yeah, I get a lot of messages like that. I mean, one obvious, depending on what age you are, one obvious thing is we've got some fantastic agricultural colleges in Scotland with great courses to get you into it. If you're wanting work experience, the great starting point is to milk cows. Like, because dairy farmers are always looking for good, hard-working people that will turn up in the morning at 5 a.m. and milk cows, and it's a great intro into the industry.
And that's probably a very key point that you mentioned there about 5 o'clock in the morning, because a lot of people now, I mean, even going through school, you get people turning up late, you've got everything that goes on with that, but with farming there's no option. Even if you're feeling a bit rough in the morning or not feeling too great, the world doesn't stop, the farm doesn't stop, and the animals certainly aren't going, oh, he's not feeling too good today, we'll leave him.
No, absolutely. There's a great ethos. We're very old-fashioned in farming. It's one of the things I love most about it. Old traditional values, work ethic, like, you know, taking a day off sick. Now, we all need to do it now and again, but like,
you better be ill.
You better be ill, and you certainly don't want your neighbour to know that you're off sick. You know,
but that, do you know what though? That for me is a good ethos. Never miss a shift, and it's. I think as well, people nowadays are probably it's so easy just to phone in. Oh, listen, I'm not feeling too great today. I'm going to have a day off. There's nothing, unless you're really ill, right? And there is obviously times that you're really ill. See somebody just getting up in the morning and getting your clothes on, giving a shower and getting yourself out. See, by the time 10 o'clock comes, you're not feeling as bad as you did feel when you were lying in your bed in the morning. Yeah,
and I would err on the side that in farming it's great because you're out in the fresh air doing a bit of physical work, which is actually good if you're stuffed with a cold or whatever. But I do fully understand if you're going to work in a stuffy office with 20 other folk and you're snotting everywhere, it's probably not good for them or good for you, so it's fair enough. But you know, farming is definitely drag yourself out.
Get to your work. That's the message. At what point did you realise the sheep game had become something much bigger than you expected?
The big thing was I'd done a wee logo for the sheep game and I'd put it on a soft shell jacket, and I was wearing the jacket, and all of a sudden I started getting messages, people going, I'd love to buy a jacket with a logo on it, and I thought, oh wow. So I thought, right, we'll do a few to the people that messaged me and sent it out. Then we did a few more, and before I knew it, we were doing quite a lot of them, and I think that was the kind of moment I was like, oh wow, there could be something in this, like this has been popular.
It's do you know what? I think it's amazing how far and wide it's been. I mean, we spoke off air. You've got customers of merch now globally.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot going to America. It's a lot of the English-speaking countries and a lot around Europe, the big sheep nations. We've got a lot going France and Belgium and all these kind of places. Norway, lots of sheep over there. It's been incredible.
So, as much as merch is a kind of side business, see in terms of farming and dealing with exports and stuff, how do you find that? Because I know fundamentally, I know you're a farmer, but your social media, your profile online and your merch is still a business.
Oh, you say aside, merch is our main income. Is merch.
Wow.
So like the farming, and I'm not here, I know it's terrible, folk are always going about no money in farming, but our system, because we rent all the ground and because we're growing all the time, our system as it is doesn't make money. It's subsidised fully by the merch. YouTube does well, but YouTube's not, it's not like a Mr. Beast type money in YouTube. It's a steady wee ink, but it's the merch. It's a big thing.
How do you find then? That's mental, first of all.
Yeah.
It's mental to think the thing that you're using to promote and show isn't the main earner. It's what you're showing and promoting that's actually doing it with your merch. Now, how do you find then, like, dealing with exports and dealing with getting things abroad? Because if merch is your main source of income, there's lots of customs challenges now, especially off the back of Brexit. How do you find that?
Oh yeah, well, double whammy. Brexit is one. It's like customs. I'm almost trying to discourage it a wee bit. Like, you just have to make the shipping so expensive, because trying to get stuff shipped into Europe is extremely difficult. In America, the same. Once the tariffs come in, America used to be a doddle, no tariffs, back and forth, easier to ship to America than Europe, and then
I find that just now it's easier to ship to America than it is to ship to Europe, with the customs challenges. And not just that, as much as you're shipping, each then individual area that you're shipping to have got their own import rules and duties and taxes, and how do you then deal it? Especially, it's maybe easier when you're doing business to business, but when you're doing business to consumer and it's customers who don't have EORI numbers and VAT IDs and tax numbers for import, it's a bit more challenging.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the most annoying one's Ireland, because that's one of our biggest customers. So, like, just try to send it across the water there to Ireland is an absolute nightmare.
Even to go to Northern Ireland, which, I mean, part of the United Kingdom, Great Britain, it's because of, understandably, the borders over there, there's not been a physical border. Even trying to get things over to Northern Ireland, you're having to do customs declarations for.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, part of me gets it, like with the Brexit thing, that they probably have to make it awkward for us, or else if they don't make it awkward,
everybody else will leave.
Aye, France and Germany and all these other guys will say, well, actually,
dealing with an ex-wife or an ex-husband.
It's either or a scorned, maybe a scorned partner. Absolutely, it is though. They can't, if you make it too good. If we have the land of milk and honey, they'll all leave and it'll break up the whole thing. So yeah, I understand why they make us suffer.
No, listen, it's one of the challenges that a lot of businesses are certainly facing, but it's amazing to hear though that the merchandise has done so well for you and your business, and we'll talk more about the business side of it and the business and farming as well, because it is interesting. But we've asked our listeners to get involved earlier on with a bargain of the week. Now, they've got in touch and let us know what their bargain of the week is, but up next, I'm looking for you to let me know your bargain of the week.
Now streaming
Ayrshire Insights, hosted by Elliot Boyce.
This is Now Ayrshire Radio.
I'm still with Cammy Wilson from The Sheep Game. Now, Cammy, before we talk farming, it is time for our weekly Bargain of the Week challenge. So listeners have been sharing the best thing they've managed to buy for a tenner or less, but over to you. What is your Bargain of the Week?
Well, I really had to think on this one, because you don't get much for a tenner these days, and I don't actually buy that much. But I was in Tower Tools at Dundonald the other day. What a place that is! And they've got this ridiculous.
It's a sweetie shot for you.
Oh, they've got. You go in for one thing, and they've got this big display of all sorts and DIY tools and whatever. Well, I picked up this really good wee foldable Stanley knife thing. I think it was like £8 or £9. Just sitting on the desk. I said, that'll do me. So I thought when he said the price, I thought it's cheap as chips. Just throw that in.
And it's probably still sitting in your drawer and not been used.
It's in the back of my pickup, still in the packet. I've not opened it yet, but one day.
Always, listen, there will be that time that you need it. Right, one of the biggest achievements of the Sheep Game has been helping people understand where food comes from and what modern farming looks like. Do you think the public understands farming better now than they did 10 years ago in general?
I don't know. Maybe I think as time goes on, it probably gets slightly worse. But I do think, as the UK as a whole, I think Ayrshire and South West Scotland, and maybe Scotland as a whole, is fairly connected to farming. Everywhere you look is farming, especially here in Ayrshire. Most people will be able to see a field from their window, or certainly from the end of their road. So I do think we have a good connection here. I think maybe our bigger cities, maybe Glasgow, Edinburgh, and a lot of the big cities down south will be way removed from it. But I think we're pretty good up here.
Yeah, Ayrshire as well. I mean, you can't drive really anywhere without going by something, and you're seeing, and that, you always find that. See, when you bring people to the UK, or even I've got customers that come over from like America and stuff like that, and that's what they absolutely love seeing. It's just all the green land and the farmland round about.
But I think one of the best places that's been great for it, especially is like the Coo Shed, along the road there at Ayr. Like, it's such a great venue. You're going into a working farm and you can get the milk, virtually straight out of the tank. It's a fantastic setup, and
it is nice in there. Big shout out to the team at the Coo Shed. Now, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about sheep farming?
Biggest misconceptions. There's probably quite. I know the biggest one actually, and I used to get this asked all the time when I was in the police. Is everyone thinks we keep the sheep for the wool? They think we make our money from the wool, which miles from the truth, because the wool actually just costs us a lot of money. Back in the day, maybe back in the 60s, late 50s, yes, there was good money in it, but now it would barely cover the cost of shearing them.
So it's kind of counter, and you just need to do it.
We bred the sheep to have this wool because wool was worth a fortune. And it is an incredible product. And before we had the synthetics and other things coming through, that's of course what we use for a lot of our textiles and whatnot. Nowadays the value is not there, but we've bred the sheep to have this wool. So now it's our responsibility to make sure we take it off every year.
And you're stuck with it.
More like, well, they're stuck with it.
They're stuck with it. You've got to take it off.
Help take it off. Yeah.
Now, you've spoken openly about weather pressures, which a lot of people will look look at today, we're sitting just now, in the start of July, and it is winter. You've also got rising costs and the challenges farmers face every day. And you did mention, and it is probably the common thing that most people say about farmers claim to never make money when it's a challenging industry. But as you had mentioned earlier, your farm, it keeps you going, it gives you the content, but your merchandise and the other stuff that you do is actually allowing you to have a life. What do you think the biggest challenges facing the industry is just now?
Well, farming's such a diverse thing. There's the pig sector's having an absolute nightmare just now. The dairy farmers aren't having a great time either.
What's the challenges with the pig sector?
Folks say imports is a big factor in it. We've got a lot of Spanish pork, and it's a real difficult thing. Pork should really be booming just now because beef is so expensive. So a lot of consumers are moving to pork as a cheaper alternative. But I mean, those guys are getting crushed to the point where they're all going to go out of business, like it is. And we don't hear much about it in the news or anything like that. Mainly because there's so few of them. Pigs are done by so few farmers that they don't have a big voice, unlike the dairy sector, which is a massive number of farmers.
To be fair, see, when you say that, it's not like when you're driving around, you see sheep, you see cows, you don't see pigs.
Well, a funny story for our Ayrshire listeners, and somebody out there will be in the same boat I was. I was at a restaurant the other day, and I was with a farmer, and they had Ayrshire ham on the menu. And I says to him, where are these pigs in Ayrshire? Like, I don't know anybody that has pigs in Ayrshire. And apparently it's the way you cure it or the way you cook the ham or something like that is the Ayrshire part. It's not that the ham is from Ayrshire. So I'd never knew that all my life. This is only just the other week. I was like 35, 36, and I'd never realised. I've always been like, where are these pigs? Because I don't know of any pigs in Ayrshire, apart from, we've had a handful at the farm and that. But in large scale, this Ayrshire ham you see all the time is something to do with the way it's either cooked or presented or something. Go. There's a lesson.
That is a misunderstanding then from the menu. Now, how important is social media in helping farmers tell their own stories rather than relying on others to tell them? Because, as you mentioned earlier, you're predominantly probably alone working yourself, isolated. Social media must be a really good thing, and I think we've mentioned off air about showing your problems as well.
Yeah, the farming thing is, look, we're a massive part of the landscape and the economy in Scotland, but the beautiful thing about farming, it's the last major industry. You could argue, apart from water, food production is the next most essential thing. But all your big things, water, is still publicly owned in Scotland, but down south, look at it, it's all big businesses and conglomerates and whatnot, pension funds own the water. Your gas, electric, all these big commodities are owned by big business and they can squeeze you whenever they like. Farming and food production is still done by the little guys. It's still your family farm, and it's incredible in 2026 that we still have that, and it's a beautiful thing that we need to protect. And social media, we saw it with the inheritance tax thing that was brought against us. Without social media and the farmers' chance to stand up for themselves and speak for themselves, we'd get crushed out by Westminster and by the politicians who have the large voice and have the control.
So you mentioned the inheritance tax. Explain for people that maybe don't know. I mean, I'd seen it, I'd heard, and I think one of our advertisers actually was talking about how if you need help with inheritance tax because things are changing, they could support you. What was the impact to farmers?
The problem with the inheritance tax thing and the problem with farming in general, and why nobody can really get into farming these days, is land prices have exploded way more than the return that you get from actually farming the land. So now you have farmers, Ayrshire's protected from it a little bit, the land price isn't as extreme here, but you have farmers now sitting on generational family farms that could have been that family for 3-4 generations that are now worth an absolute fortune, but might only be making a 1% return on what the actual value is. Yeah. So if you're only making a 1% return that in a year, and all of a sudden you're going to have a 400 grand tax bill to pay, like, the only way to pay that is to sell it. And that
so
was
it's squeezing it to sell to developers.
Yeah, and it's such a difficult thing to win the public support on, and I understand that because there's people out there really struggling, and when you hear somebody moaning that their £2-3 million farm is going to have to be sold, they're just like, we'll just sell it. But it's not about that. The reason we have such an issue with mental health in farming is because of the weight of pressure of generations. So if you're the third or fourth generation in this family farm, if anybody's watched Yellowstone with Kevin Costner, you'll understand it. He was getting offered billions for a ranch that was losing money, and he wouldn't sell it because of that connection to the land and his family history, and he doesn't want to be the one that fails. So what we often get in farming is the farmer maybe gets into hard times or things don't go their way. We look at the pig sector and these things, the dairy farms, and he feels the weight of generations. He's going to be the failure.
Yeah.
And this is when the mental health comes in, and we have real tragedies in farming because of that way. You could sell it on and be a millionaire, but that's not an option.
It's not the point.
That's a failure as well.
It's more than the money.
I'm not saying it is a failure, but in his or her head, to sell that farm and just pocket the £1 million or whatever, that's a failure because it's a generational family farm.
And the difficulty is the challenges that they're facing today are completely different from previous generations' challenges, because now, I mean, we mentioned as well, but off air, you've got the supermarket generation where you'll go in rather than going to your local butcher, and all the price differences and that. I mean, some of the prices of meat and the differentials between supermarkets and butchers is huge. Quality is also huge in my view as well, but the rising costs, I mean, you were talking even employers' national insurance, employee costs, pension contributions, then to be hit with something that you've probably planned your life, especially people probably at the latter stages as well, in terms of generational and passing stuff over. You may be at the latter stages, you've planned it in one way, but then you're getting hit with potentially, as you mentioned, up to £400,000-500,000 worth of inheritance tax. That's not really sustainable last minute.
It would have been impossible. It really would have been impossible. And thankfully they have changed it a bit, that most Ayrshire farms will be protected. It's now a £5 million cap if all your ducks are in a row, and it works out great. But you talk about things changing all the time and moving forward. That's what the old thing about farmers never making money. The main reason for that being a thing is because if you stand still in a farming business, you go backwards. So every penny of profit a farmer makes is getting invested on the farm, and usually that means local jobs. That's your tractor dealer, that's your man that fits your milking parlour, it's the guy that comes to sow new seed into the field, your hedge layers, your fencers. All these local businesses and local people, that money just gets put back in, because see, in farming, if you don't keep running forward, you're left behind.
You end up stuck in the back.
This is the Ayrshire Insights podcast with Elliot Boyce.
Right, we're going to be quick here. Cammy Wilson from the Sheep Game. We're going to play 5 fast ones. Don't think about it, just say the first answer that comes into your head. Are you ready? Right, okay, let's go. Favourite breed of sheep?
Cheviot.
Favourite time of year in the farm?
Oh, spring.
Hardest job in farming?
Sheep shearing.
Biggest surprise from your YouTube journey?
The fact somebody wanted to buy a jacket from me.
And most memorable sheep you've ever worked with?
Oh, that has to be Fiona, the lonely sheep.
And a bonus one, who plays Cammy Wilson in the movie of your life?
It'd need to be the guy that plays Marv in Home Alone. I get that a lot.
There we go. Right, thank you for playing 5 fast ones. So we really are running out of time, Cammy, but it's been great to get you involved this morning. So what are your ambitions for the Sheep Game over the next few years?
It's all in the farming side. I'm just going to keep working away. As I say, it helps the income from the Sheep Game. I just funnel it all back into buying cows and sheep. So I want to grow the herd of cattle that we've got and have even more sheep.
Last question, I think everybody will be on. What is one thing that every non-farmer should know about the people producing their food?
They are just good, honest, old-fashioned people that are looking after their families, and they want the best for you as well. We're not trying to profiteer or squeeze you in any way. We're just out there doing a thing we love, and the benefit of it is that you get fantastic food off the back of that.
And you were recently recognised with the NFU Scotland Ambassador Award. What does that kind of recognition mean to you personally?
Yeah, that caught me out that night. I was almost a bit emotional about it, because I love farming. Like, I love this community, this industry, the people involved in it, and it means the world to me to be given that award and to be able to come on things like this and shout about how great farming is.
No, brilliant. Cammy, been really, really good to have you on today. Have you got any final shout-outs or thanks before we wrap up?
Oh, listen, I've got to give a shout out to my partner Lizzie for doing all the work at home while I'm gallivanting doing interviews on the radio, out in the rain today with the kids. Shout out to them, and I'm very lucky.
Cammy Wilson from the Sheep Game, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Cammy.
This is the Ayrshire Insights podcast.
Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe now.